Okay, well, welcome everyone. This webinar is being recorded and all attendees will receive a copy. And so we should run about 30 minutes or so. And then also feel free to type in any questions that you may have into the chat. And with that, I will let Chad take it from here.
Perfect, thank you very much. Hello everyone, this is Chad O'Donnell. I am product specialist here at vCom Solutions. For some of you, you may have been at our customer summit. We had Rackspace join us, and they gave a 15-minute overview of who they are and why they're relevant in the space. And we wanted to expand on that and have this webinar so they can dive a little bit deeper into what Rackspace does and how they partner with us. So when we're talking about cloud technologies or even deploying CRM with Microsoft Dynamics, these are all different technologies that we can bring to the table and Rackspace can help us out with. And so we have invited Jeff to really dive in a little bit deeper into some of the areas that he believes some of our clients can take advantage of Rackspace and their solutions. So that being said, I'll turn it over to Jeff so he can dive into his presentation. But as Nicole said, please ask questions, put them in chat. We'd love to make this. We'd love to answer all your questions that you have. So that being said, Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, thanks so much, Chad. We really appreciate that and appreciate the partnership that we have between our two companies. And everyone, thank you so much for being here today. Today's conversation is everything changes in the cloud. Now, when we think cloud, we think crazy, difficult, challenging technologies. And one of the things I like to do is, before I present, is one to tell you a little bit about who I am. And I try to choose an image, a picture of me that hopefully breaks down some of any perceived notions of what a chief technology evangelist at a multi-billion-dollar company might be. Now, before I show you this picture, setting up a little bit of anticipation, is we own some property northwest of San Antonio, Texas, in what's called the Texas Hill Country. We have challenge in the Texas Hill Country, and that is an invasive tree species called the cedar tree, ash juniper specifically, and they need to be dealt with. Well, we got this property about 7 years ago. There was a lot that needed to be dealt with. So while I tell you all about my technology pedigree, what I'll actually just show you is I have my white collar fancy job so I can do my blue collar work on the weekends, and that is helping to restore this Texas land that I have the opportunity to help shepherd. So I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace. I joined the company in 2008 and have had a bajillion different jobs inside of the organization, launching and running different business units here. I host a live stream and a podcast here at rackspace.com/solve. You can find that information there. I'm the chief editor for our Solve program. That's our thought leadership program. Father of two and the husband of one. And of course, there's that Texas land. Now, before we get too far in and you get too comfortable in your chairs, this is going to be an interactive day. Now, part of the Solve program, again, our thought leadership program, is every quarter we go out and we survey over 1,400 IT decision makers in 10 different countries around the world. And we take these 4 quarters and we divide them up. We're either asking data and AI type questions, compute, security, or applications focused. Now, this last batch that we just got back was focused on all things compute, hyperscale cloud, private clouds, data centers, things like that. And we asked a question that I thought I would ask you as well. And once you answer the question, then I'll show you what we heard back from our folks. Now here's the question. Do you envision a time within the next 5 years in your organization where you'll no longer own a data center? So here's the poll. You can go ahead and click the answer that you think is right for your organization. And like I said, once we get these back and we look at the results, I'll show you what these 1,420 IT decision makers around the world had to say. And it's kind of neck and neck here, but yes, no data center is winning by a click or two here. Now this is interesting, meaning that more than half of you agree that in the next 5 years, your company won't own a data center. So there are the results. You can see it right there. And I think we had two clicks on no, you're going to continue to have a data center. Now that is very much in keeping with the results that we got when we asked those 1,420 IT decision makers across the world, do you envision a time in the next 5 years where your company will no longer own a data center? 56 plus the 3 that already don't kind of is pretty much right in line with what you guys had to say here as well. Well, what does that mean for us as both business owners, business operators, as well as companies helping influence other companies? You can take that percentage and tuck that into your brain. It's a super important percentage, because what that means, if my 1,400 and the group that we had here today are any indication of a wider sample set, then let's just round to easy numbers. 2/3 of the organizations out there are actively, because if they want to be out in the next 5 years, they are actively working on a plan to go to the cloud. I'm going to define what the cloud is. Now, what about the other third? That other group that said, no, we're still going to have a data center. What I don't want you to be confused about is the fact that that might think they're not going to the cloud. That means when they say they're going to still have a data center, it means it's an and, it's not an or. They will have a data center, and they either already do or will have cloud. So it really is an indicator as in which companies are moving larger amounts and which ones are moving smaller amounts. What this means is you can't go fishing in the pond of looking for cloud transformation work. We'll define what that is shortly, without getting a strike. So, all right, what does it mean? What does it mean to have a cloud? What does it mean to go through that transformation? Well, I'm going to liken it to Mount Everest. See, there are about 8 billion people that live on the earth today, but only about just over 6,000 of them have ever been to the top of Everest. There are 3 crazy challenges: weather, atmospheric pressure. You're up there in the area of where airliners fly, 30,000 feet in the air. And of course, deadly crevasses, those pits that are hidden by snow that you fall into and potentially fall hundreds of feet, never to be heard from again. Well, the cloud can be very similar. Again, it may seem like a bit of a stretch to compare summiting Azure to moving out into a cloud-based environment. There are massive challenges to deal with. For instance, the complexity. You can do almost anything in the cloud. Managing compliance and security. You kind of think of those 2 things always running neck and neck. And then, of course, managing cost. But Jeff, everybody says the cloud is cheaper. You break a lot of models. We're going to talk about that here shortly, and actually exposes opportunity. So technology trends that we see going on all around us are not just evolving by themselves at their own breakneck pace, but what really gets exciting is when these technologies intersect. Think about IT, sensors, edge technology, cloud computing, sustainability, and virtual enterprises all coming together in a cohesive solution. And that's exactly what's happening in industries like manufacturing. Manufacturing has been really slow to adopt cloud technologies because sometimes they have very specialized needs and very fast networking requirements. Sometimes aren't so close to great networking. Well, with the combination of all of this, we're now able to bring real-time solutions to the manufacturing industry, and now we're seeing massive transformation across that industry at large. It's pretty amazing stuff. Well, and then the convergence of these trends also result in a new set of employee and customer, it says behaviors here, but also expectations. They're looking for things to be asset light. Who wants to look after a bunch of servers and virtual machines anymore when it can just be a managed list of effectively code? Or a shareable resource, so easy to access, Appleized everything. Think about the best user interface you can think of that doesn't need training. It's your iPhone, it's your iPad, and content savvy. Our users that come into industry today are more technically and digitally literate than anybody, the workforce that we've seen come up in forever. And a lot of that is because these kids have just grown up with the tech as part of who they were as kids, as young students, as college students. It's part of how they get jobs and get things done. And they're used to that instant Apple-like experience. And that's what companies ultimately need to deliver. Think of it in the delivery of a cup of coffee. I mean, we all can make our own coffee. You can go and get a great one from Starbucks. Well, the digital infrastructure operating Starbucks behind the scenes is massive, resulting in their ability to not just run analytics and understand in near real time what's happening in every store, but also to be able to apply machine learning, in other words, predictive models that allow them to see into the future, traffic patterns, demand patterns, supply chain requirements coming up in the future to be able to plan and prepare for those things. Marrying those real-time behaviors with key business metrics to create a dashboard of capability and a dashboard of knowledge that allow business leaders to make insightful, real-time, in some cases, future decisions. All right, and quiet for a little bit. We're going to do another poll. Now, the poll that we're going to ask now is about challenges that companies are experiencing. So here it comes. What are the biggest IT challenges currently for your organization currently? Is it security? Is it cost? IT talent, compliance, regulations, tech, too many choices of the tech, or technical debt, legacy stuff? All right, IT talent is winning so far. 2 votes there. Cost, security. Coming up. Oh, security making a run. Security for the win, I think. Yeah, 7 people. Yep, security for the win. All right, let me show you what the results were. Again, when we went out and asked over 1,400 IT decision makers what was big on their list: security, cost, and talent. Look at that. You guys are right in line. It's almost like this is the state of industry today. Now, when we think about these challenges, we think about the fact that 2/3 of the companies that surveyed here and we look at in our study are consider the fact that in the next 5 years they won't have a data center, and the rest of them also moving some fit or fashion out into the cloud. Well, we should probably define what the cloud is, because having an understanding of that as you now go out and represent cloud and cloud services becomes super duper important. So the cloud is transformative. It allows change inside of organizations that has never been possible before. I have to say the cloud is infinite. There's more capacity and capability than we're able to ask of it. The cloud is a catalyst for change. When you're out talking to companies and they talk about their transformation activities or they talk about the way they're approaching business, ask how technology is coming alongside to not just enable a process, but transform that process. It's opportunity reimagined and the ability for companies to truly rethink how they're doing what they do. It evolves on a moment-by-moment basis. Every morning, I get up and do a Google search. AWS space updates, Azure space updates, GCP updates, and I look at everything they've deployed in the past 24 hours, and it's amazing the amount that's happening there. And the cloud is reachable by virtually everyone on the earth today. Now, the cloud is great tech, but if it doesn't enable something, well, then it's useless. The cloud enables faster innovation. It enables new revenue streams. It derives more insights from data and companies interacting differently with their customers, their partners, and their employees. It changes everything. Life in the cloud changes everything. Now, I just did a similar thing that I'm doing with you guys about an hour beforehand. And the companies I was visiting with, Midwestern sort of companies, some older companies, decent sampling size of them. Not many were already had begun that move, because the cloud can be confusing. Remember those 3 challenges. It's complex, it's compliance and security can be challenging, and of course, the cost needs to be managed. And all of those things are best managed when again, if we go back and think about the Everest example, you don't do that alone. You get a Sherpa. You get somebody to guide you who's done it before. And that's what companies need to do when going through this transformation. And we believe at Rackspace that we are the world's single greatest multi-cloud services company in helping companies transform to modern private clouds, but also the public cloud. Now, how do we do that? What makes us unique and special? Now, when you think about the capabilities that exist in the cloud, a truly just reactive support metric, and meaning something goes bump in the night with these servers and it goes to a host of potentially thousands of techs who somebody is going to randomly pick up that ticket and respond to it. It doesn't work in the cloud. The cloud is ever evolving. The cloud is transforming under our feet. And what it requires is a small group of people who are focused on one-to-one relationships with individual companies. We call them a pod. We have pods of 9 individuals, just 9. And they're the ones who serve and support our customers on a one-to-one relationship. It's a service we call Rackspace Elastic Engineering, and it allows customers to dial up the amount of support they get each month or dial it back. So from our professional services and moving companies into the cloud to Rackspace Elastic Engineering and helping these small, nimble teams serve shoulder to shoulder, virtually, of course, with our customers in helping them improve their infrastructure every single day. We help customers get more value out of data. Think of the Starbucks example. Though they're not our customer, I could give a list of hundreds of customers that we have helped transformed their data. You see, when I first started at Rackspace and through my entire evolution, whether it was helping a company initially just move into one of our managed data centers, or whether it was moving them out initially into a hyperscale cloud, we talked about their applications. And there was always this stepchild that came along, and that was the data. The data made the app run, so we got to have a database. Well, that's been totally shifted. Companies are realizing that there is so much value in the data that they have that is used as part of their applications, as part of everything. So we help companies get more value from data. Remember security? If you still have that poll open, it's the #1 issue. It's the #1 in mine as well. We secure our solutions that we help migrate and move and transform for our customers are secure by design, baked into every aspect of it. And of course, our solutions are sustainable. Now, sustainability for Rackspace is a trifecta. First of all, it's what you would think of. It's green. We help make sure that the solutions that we are creating are not contributing in significant ways to greenhouse gas emissions, pure and simple. And we can do that through utilizing modern cloud technologies. And I can share with you some statistics later about this, about what analysts are saying. Running solutions in modern clouds is so much more efficient. But we're also economically sustainable. Those moves to the cloud create new buying models. No longer do your purchases go through procurement. Now they're coming in through developers writing code. That gets scary, but putting the right framework in place helps for that. We'll talk about that shortly in the few minutes I have left. And then, of course, equitable. We want to make sure that we are opening up these solutions and the creation of them. When we think Rackspace, how do we open the doors wide to give everybody an opportunity with the right skills and capabilities to come in? All right, so as we move on, we believe that companies who thrive in the cloud adopt a multi-cloud platform, choosing the right cloud for the right solution. We believe that between these clouds, supply chains of data are created. Remember, data has become that most important asset, and then ultimately create digital solutions to, in some cases, analog-based problems, ones that are more, that solve the problems in more effective ways. Now, I mentioned data before. Let's dip into data for just a second. Now, companies who thrive in the cloud aren't just data aware. In fact, they're not just data literate, but they're data fluent. Now, the data we're talking about is the data inside of their organizations. And what you see here is an evolutionary map, one of who needs to have access to what, as well as what they need to do with that data. And at Rackspace, we help customers get the most that they can out of data. Now, you might ask questions of your clients, of your customers, to expose data opportunities in and around things like, how is your company getting more value out of data? Because it absolutely is possible to do just that. And other questions that you could ask to unearth data opportunities. You see, a lot of companies will have a technology roadmap or a cloud roadmap. But what they also need to have is a data roadmap. You see, as what you'll see shortly on a slide is when Rackspace considers this migration to the cloud, we think about it not just as a holistic move to the cloud, but what happens at the app layer, what's happening at the infrastructure layer, the data layer, and the security layer. All very important things to understand and to ask of your customers. Because at the end, your goal here is to ask just the right questions to unearth opportunity or where customers have a strategic intent, and then bring Rackspace alongside to help really dig into the details of that, as well as to then fulfill that. Now, I had mentioned before a little bit about sustainability and data fluency and secure by design. All of this will be available in, of course, you see it in the presentation or in the in the recording, of course, but we'll make the presentation available. But what I wanted to show you really quick was the fact that cloud transformation has a process. We've been doing it since our inception. And so for the past 23 years, whether it's moving into private cloud or out into public cloud, we have codified this process for helping customers make this transformation. So it starts with business context. It always starts with a conversation around business context and outcomes. What is the company attempting to achieve in this process? So a question you might ask is, what is, I asked the question in the very beginning because I wanted to teach you to ask the question, do you envision a time in the next 5 years where you won't own a data center? Build on that and find out what their purpose, what their reason for making that move is. Then we can match just the right requirements to those technology to those solutions at just the right time. Define any non-functional requirements and service level objectives. We need to understand what is expected of this transformation. And then lead with a CSP-led, highly automated, and workable, award-winning multi-cloud architecture. Meaning, we're going to take the best that the cloud has to offer. At Rackspace, we have relationships with each of the cloud providers at literally the highest level possible, and meet with them on a regular basis, not just with them organizationally, but also with their business leadership team. Okay, great question. Look at that question. It says, if we implement a SaaS solution, is that moving to the cloud? Absolutely, it's moving to the cloud. And I love SaaS solutions because SaaS solutions you don't have to worry with. Because it's up to the SaaS provider to manage all the infrastructure, power, ping, and pipe, manage the code, manage the patching, manage the backup, all of those things. If you are, or your customer have applications that are do not create unique business value, they're not unique and special to their organization, well, you know what? All you have to do, those are great candidates to move out into SaaS. Those things that are unique and special, that's where you want to invest. That's where you want to think about moving to the cloud. Great question, Jock. Be like Jock. Ask questions. We only have a few minutes left. Then we're into migrate and modernize. Realize in a 5-step process, it took till step 4 to get to actually doing anything. Moving to the cloud. It's super important to make sure that this transformation is well thought out, well planned, and well architected. And then, of course, make sure that the operating model is sustainable and as automated as possible. Now, remember before I mentioned we have that framework for moving out into the cloud. And we divide these sections up as follows through the cloud architecture and applications, the data, the platform, and then, of course, the security. Now, what you see here is a few things to call out. And with that, there are more slides. We're not going to look at them, but they'll be available to you. But there's a process to moving out to the cloud, starting with advisory services, transformation services, then we manage, then we optimize. And that arrow goes right back to the beginning. Now, Rackspace specifically does this work in 2 primary means of services. Professional services, the big transformation, time and materials contracts, and then managed services and elastic engineering, which I mentioned before. These are how we care and feed and grow these environments over time. And then, of course, the individual swim lanes inside of here. Now, what I want to do in the essence of time is really just show you a few slides and show you the text that exists inside of here. It's because it's good data for you to have. And the next bit is all about FinOps. I mentioned financial operations before. Inside of here, there is an explanation in the slides as well as the notes, which will take you through how to have a conversation around FinOps. Because ultimately what happens in move to the cloud is business leadership and finance and procurement lose their ability to control the acquisition of infrastructure. Now it's in the form of maybe IT individuals or developers who are creating new solutions, utilizing code and services that get deployed instantaneously. So there's a new model that's required to governance model to make sure that all of these communities are talking to one another and all of them are working together, an inform phase, an optimize phase, and an operate phase to ensure that with FinOps that your teams work together to optimize speed, cost, and quality of your cloud spend. So for us at Rackspace, we think back to the example before. Our goal is to reduce complexity, to ensure compliance and security, and to manage cost, ultimately delivering the future for you guys as well as your customers. All right, we are 4 minutes to the tippy end, and I wonder if Chad wants to sneak back over here for a second, and maybe we can answer any last questions that you might have. All right, everybody's come off mute. You can just speak.
Yeah, thank you very much for going through that. Does anybody on the bridge have any questions that they want to talk about, dive into? Any specific questions? We're happy to discuss that now.
So great question about SaaS before, by the way.
Yeah. Go for it. You gonna say something, Jeff?
Say all quiet on the in the front here. Maybe I answered everyone's questions.
You must have.
Or it was really confusing.
If I could, just for 1 second, instead of typing it, because it was a little more involved.
Sure.
So when you're moving to the cloud and you bring up security, would that be something that you deal with the security, or would you bring in another company that would have an expertise in security to, advise in that space?
So we would front the whole thing. We would do a majority of the work. In some cases, we're bringing some partners in for their technology behind the scenes. For instance, we're big partners with a company called Cloudflare, and Cloudflare does some amazing stuff in their networking as well as some zero trust things to it. But security is really a multifaceted approach, and so there are areas where we are experts, and there are a few that we rely on partners for.
Thank you.
Right. But it all looks like Rackspace.
Yeah, it's a great question, definitely. And that's the nice thing is you go to Rackspace and they can help you navigate through that whole process, and you don't have to go out and find different vendors to help you and piece part it together yourself. So any other questions? All right, Jeff, anything additional you want to add before we wrap up?
Well, not too much, but you can, if you think that this sort of thing is useful and helpful, I share information. I mentioned I have a live stream that happens every Tuesday morning at 8:30 Central Time on LinkedIn, so you can find it there. If you follow Rackspace, you'll get alerts about when that happens. If you are in a time zone where that's not a great time, it's just on LinkedIn. You can watch it anytime. But we are always having technology leaders, both from C-levels down to individual practitioners, on sharing some really interesting information. So it's a great way to get some additional content and education. Education is always good.
Perfect. And if you want to have a further conversation around a specific project, feel free to reach out to your vCom account manager or myself, and we can definitely get a conversation started with the Rackspace team. So thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great to see everybody here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.